Welcome to 101.1 FM WBRU-LP WFOO-LP WVVX-LP Providence. I'm your co-host, Dhruv.
And I'm your co-host, Alejandro Jackson.
And this is the Outta Pocket Podcast,
where we pull conversation topics out of our pocket.
And occasionally, go out of pocket.
So on today's show, we're going to dub it the comic book catch-up. Essentially, we want to talk all things comic books in this episode, and well, more so, I guess, the more popular side of comic books in the pop culture sphere right now, which is movies, and just talk about some of the releases coming out soon, our
stuff we're excited about,
our concerns, and I guess how they're adapting comic book stories that have been around for decades into adaptations on the big screen.
So yeah, for sure. So I guess we'll start with the one coming out most recently, I believe, this Friday. We're getting a new Batman story in the... I believe the movie's just called The Batman, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, any thoughts?
To be honest, no. And I say that mostly because I'm not a big DC person. I think, at least personally for me. And I think... And, I feel like you hear these comparisons a lot, like how DC is meant to be sort of the, I guess, pinnacle of like superheroes, like these like larger than life characters who can like, I say this sort of generally, can do no wrong, and like as opposed to like Marvel, where like Marvel superheroes were made with the intention of being relatable. Like one of the things like Stan Lee had always talked about before he passed was like how Spider-Man was supposed to be like just a relatable teenager. He has teenager issue, like problems, and how like it could like basically like the fact that he wears a mask, it could be anybody under there, and like so at least for me, like I've always preferred Marvel because it's just more relatable. Like it's superheroes like Daredevil who's blind, and how like a Hawkeye who deals with being deaf. It's like a lot more like I said, just easily relatable to so for people around the world to feel connected to these characters. So Marvel's always been my thing, but yeah, I'm not excited for the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know, I feel like I've been fairly invested in both. I mean, probably more so Marvel in recent years, just because the MCU's just wild, rampant success, and the DCEU's opposite of that. Yeah. But no, but I've still like some of the first movies I watched like were Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and like the 1970s Superman with like Chris Reeves. So like I don't know, like both have places in my heart. I will say I've always been more of a Superman guy than a Batman guy. Even though everyone's like, oh, Superman, he's just like overpowered. That's his whole like personality. And like since the 80s or 90s, a lot of Superman stories have just been like, but what if Superman was evil? Yeah. And then he's just like communist or something. But I will say I have a lot of respect for the Batman stories, because some of those stories hit hard, like The Killing Joke, or like any of the stuff with like Jason Todd and the Red Hood. Like I very recently watched the movie adaptation of Death in the Family.
Yeah, the animated one.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. But like, yeah, like Batman stories, very gritty, like, and of course, like there's some iconic Batman film like pretty much before the MCU, like the most commercially viable like superhero movies were like Batman and like Spider-Man. So like yeah, you have all that stuff, like I don't know, like the Tim Burton Batman movies, and of course like you can't talk Batman without talking the Nolan trilogy. Like absolutely brilliant. But yeah, like I guess in talking about this itself, it brings up the point, like Batman movies have a legacy, and it's always a hard bar to clear, especially after Nolan made his movies. And like post Nolan, the only Batman representation we've had on the big screen has been Batfleck.
Yeah.
Which, like, it would have been nice to see a version of Ben Affleck as the Batman that wasn't like as part of the larger DCEU, because I feel like they could have done some good with that. But now, the onus of being Batman is on Robert Pattinson. What are your thoughts on the guy?
I feel like I think he's a good actor. I saw
Definitely.
What was the movie? There was a movie I watched with him in it. Damn, it's on Netflix. I forgot the name, but he was really good in that.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has range.
Oh, for sure.
The thing is, like you said, it's a lot to live up to. Anytime you play, an iconic superhero, especially when they've been played before, like Spider-Man,
Yep.
Everybody's like, oh, who's your favorite? And I can imagine for these actors, like it's a lot to live up to, mostly because you don't want to disappoint, right? You don't want to spend hours and hours working on something and then have it release and have people be disappointed. Like that's, obviously I think that would sort of discourage and disappoint anybody. But so far from what I've seen, everybody's enjoyed his portrayal so far of of the little snippets that they've seen.
Like it definitely, like, yeah, no, 100%. I think I agree. Robert Pattinson is a phenomenal actor. Like I rewatched Tenet before the break. It's like I don't get why so many people dunk on that movie. Like,
okay, that movie's it's like it. I don't know what it was. I think just for me, like maybe it's a number of things. Like one of them was like I was kind of confused as to like where to be honest, I still kind of don't know what the point of that movie was. Like it kind of like it felt more cool to me than anything else, like in terms of like the premise. Like, well, for anybody who hasn't seen the movie, essentially you can like kind of go back in time, but like it's
yeah.
anyways, it's trippy. But I feel like the other thing for me was like, so I watched Tenet after I've seen Interstellar by Nolan, and I think like I just had like Interstellar level expectations,
Right.
and like I don't think it's too hot of a take to say Tenet is not as good as Interstellar.
Yeah,
Like,
you'd probably be right.
Interstellar is like trippy.
I am I don't know. I'm a Tenet enjoyer.
Like it wasn't bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad movie. It just I was kind of confused, but
yeah, but like besides the point, I think Robert Pattinson killed it in the movie. Like I don't think that's a very hot take. Like I think he did a great job, and I'm excited to see what he does with Batman. Another thing I will say from at least the trailers and like the promotional material, I'm very excited for just like the visuals of the movie. Like that sort of aesthetic, like red on black, just like fire explosions, but like it looks really like, it doesn't look like Michael Bay explosions, it looks very like aesthetically, like look, he's trying to bring out like the aspect that his version of Gotham City, like Robert Pattinson's Batman, is like fighting through like this gritty hellscape, which I think I don't know, it's a cool direction to go in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, cause like I feel like the Nolan films were very like not like the color palettes weren't as diverse as what we've seen so far from this new Batman movie. I guess among my I guess, concerns for the movie. One is like, I mean, and like I said, I don't know how much of a position I am to speak about this, because like the thing is, as I was saying earlier, I've always been more of a Marvel person, and like I kind of still haven't, because like for example, like with Spider-Man, and I know I keep going back to him, but like it's just like you kind of get with it, like when we measure like the accuracy or the, I guess, quality of an adaptation, it's always like how intrinsic would, like how similar to the original like source material would that character be, like um like personality wise, or like in the decisions that like they would make, right? um so like with Spider-Man, like I feel like that's like, it's like clear to me, like I think um Spider-Man PS4 is like a really great adaptation of yeah, like the character of Peter Parker, and like how he's like a person living two lives, and he has to struggle with issues as like a regular person, with like his relationships, with school, with work, and also as like a superhero who's doing things for like the good of others. I haven't exactly figured out, I guess, like personally, what exactly Batman's thing is. Like he's kind of
Yeah.
he just like kind of does stuff. Like I don't even know. Like cause like
I don't know. I think I feel like a lot of the criticism that comes with Batman is like, I don't know, like the whole like he's just motivated by his parents' death,
like,
and
yeah,
like,
it kind of seems like that. 'Cause,
yeah.
like, he's like, oh, my parents died, and then like I don't know, and then I became a superhero. Like, bruh, like
Bruh. I think there's more to it than that, and I think several Batman stories have really like fleshed out Batman as a character. Like I'd be remiss without talking about the Batman Beyond animated series, where Batman is older, and he he has his place taken by a younger. Oh man, why am I blanking on the name?
Terry McGinnis.
Yeah, Terry
Why
McGinnis.
do I know that?
Bro, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, Terry McGinnis becomes Batman, and interestingly enough, like I watched a YouTube video about Batman Beyond the other day that directly compared Batman Beyond to like Spider-Man stories, because like Terry McGinnis is like he's kind of like a teen, he's a kid, and he balances a lot of like you know his love interests and his personal life with the duties of being Batman, which is once again one of those like relatable. I guess that brings up another point. Like I feel like sometimes people treat DC and Marvel like they're in a vacuum, like they're just completely separate from each other, and that's like the opposite of the truth. I feel like these two like franchises have just been influencing each other, going back and forth throughout the years.
Yeah.
And isn't like Deadpool like a direct response to Deathstroke or something? Yeah. So I don't know. Like I going back to like the Batman Beyond thing, I think like the creators of that show not only like had a solid vision for like the sort of aesthetic of the show, but it very much felt like they drew at least some inspiration from the more relatable side of Marvel and put that into like Batman stories.
Yeah, which is like, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of what these things need, because like the thing. Well, I mean, obviously you can make these like arguments with like characters like Iron Man or whatever, but like Batman's just, he's like hella breaded up, like just like parents died,
Bro got banged,
and he takes orphans off the street and trains them in martial arts and fights crime with them.
but like in those in certain Batman stories, they put the reason for him doing that is like I forget where it was. I want to say it was a Justice League episode or something, where the Justice League was like, what are you doing to like Robin? Like he's gonna end up just like you, and Batman's like, nah, like I'm training him so he doesn't end up like me. Like I feel like there is a very clear character motivation.
No, I get
for
that.
Batman.
It's like a very like Mr. Miyagi sort of, because like, I mean, it's very like like I think people being guided in some way in life is a really important thing, right? So like I kind of get where you're like coming from. Obviously, like you know, Dick Grayson, his parents were killed in the circus. I want to say like they were trapezes.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, he was on a Batman arc, bro. His parents got killed, and that man was gonna end up another menace. But the thing is, yeah, I just like I don't know. I feel like there's like a disconnect between just me and the character of Batman. Like it's just like something just doesn't meet eye to eye. So that's why like the whole point of this, like I guess why I brought this up is because like for me, like with Spider-Man, like I feel like I'm confident. I feel a lot more confident in being able to measure what a good adaptation is because like I feel like I can like I can tell when the character is being truly represented. With Batman, I still haven't really figured that out. So I kind of just like I'm like I feel like I'll go into this and I'll see it sort of more from like a general storytelling perspective. So like if it has a good rising action, climax, resolution.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't really care about like I guess like measuring how accurate it is to like the character in the comics one. I don't really.
I think that's how I'm sort of approaching it too. Like, because like whenever we go into a Spider-Man movie, we've just been keeping track of the character for so long, and I think a large part of that is because Spider-Man is so relatable that like you and I especially can like just sort of like place ourselves like in Spider-Man shoes, and I think in some ways that makes it a little trickier to do Spider-Man adaptations because the director has to deal with the fact that like so many people have expectations. But I think where we are now, like unless you're a hardcore Batman or DC fan, if you're like us, like a pretty general audience, you're kind of going into this movie with not a lot of expectation, which I think in some ways is good because like expectation sort of killed the DCU in my opinion. Like yeah, I don't know. That's like a whole other discussion, but
no, I mean I get what you're saying.
I think the hype around the DC like live action movies has sort of died down a little, while Marvel's is just like
because I feel like their issue was like obviously Marvel did the whole MCU and that was extremely big, and obviously, as you were saying, like I don't think it's far fetched to say that DC definitely felt pressured to release something and that's just how the business works. Like, that's how, like, obviously, I mean, I think it's undeniable to say they're competitors. I mean, I don't think that there's necessarily, like, any animosity between them. But obviously, like, they're both content factories making, comic books and comic book movies. And, you don't exactly want to lag behind, right? So, like, obviously, I think there's this pressure to make something as good as the MCU. And so, like, I feel like they kind of, tried to jump the gun a little bit with, like, oh, yeah, Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Because, like,
it fell fell flat on its face.
Yeah, like, I think, like, they kind of threw out all these sort of big, like, quote-unquote heavy hitters, but it was just, like, too soon. Like, it just needed a lot more setup. Like, Civil War. The MCU was so good because like it had 8 years of build up behind it,
and Infinity War, dude.
So I think it's good to sort of I guess start from ground zero. The biggest issue though is like I guess how like how does this gonna work? How is this gonna work with the DCU now? So like obviously,
is it in the DCEU?
I have no idea.
Yeah, neither do I, bro.
And that's the thing. Like these aren't questions they've explicitly answered. And obviously, with the Flash movie coming out, actually, wait, when is? I think that's coming out this year.
Oh wow, yikes!
That whole movie is supposed to be like, from what I understand, a little bit of a factory reset.
Like DCU. Like a very much like a.
It's a Flashpoint.
New 52. Yeah, they're adapting Flashpoint, aren't they?
So.
And Michael Keaton's Batman is gonna be in it.
Apparently,
yeah.
So
crazy.
The thing is, like, they can either A, keep this separate, B, kind of throw it in there after Flashpoint, or like do it
Mm-hmm.
just keep the DC, like keep it within the like DC multiverse, like the DC
Yeah.
cinematic multiverse, but just be like, oh yeah, but like
Mhm.
it's not.
I think that's one of the reasons I enjoyed Joker so much. They explicitly said, "Oh, this isn't connected to the DCEU at all.
Mm-hmm.
This is just like a story with some of those DC characters."
Yeah.
And that's why I was able to be like, "Wow, this acting is phenomenal. Like I really like, the cinematography here. The music was the score was great."
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't thinking about, "Wait, so how does this relate to like
Yeah.
Justice League or whatever?"
So they haven't really provided that clarification. So I feel like it's kind of
Mhm.
it's also leaving sort of something up in the air for like fans to question whether or not it'll be good. But yeah.
One last point I want to make before we move on from Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of Batman stories that I'm familiar with are like older Batman. Like he's wizened up, he's sort of matured. Like they'll make references to like, remember when you were young and you were like yeah, whatever. But like by this point he's very much like he's been through the ringer a lot. He's had a lot of relationships. He's mentored 1, 2, or 3 different Robins.
It's 4 now, but
Yeah, it's 4. Yeah.
yeah. Dick Grayson, Jason Todd. What's the name? Tim something.
The dude who's like Ra's al Ghul's like,
No, that's. I think you're thinking. Well, actually, is he? Maybe.
man.
No, because then I know there's Damian Wayne, his
Yeah.
son, who's the 4th Robin. But yeah, that's a whole.
Either way, like we've seen a lot of like mature, like almost like low key omniscient Batman. I feel like everyone's like, well, if you give Batman enough time to plan.
Oh, not even that, bro. He literally sat in what is it, the Mobius chair, and became
Yeah.
omniscient. But that's whatever.
Is whatever.
It's a whole.
But I think like I'm not exactly too sure about the details of this movie, but I'd say like Robert Pattinson is a pretty young guy, so like
yeah.
if they're doing like a sort of younger, like more inexperienced adaptation of Batman,
Mhm.
sort of like not necessarily an origin story, but like maybe like one earlier in his career, one of his first few villains, when he doesn't make all the right decisions all the time, and
that would be a good movie.
I'd be excited to see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that about sums up. I know, like you and me, we could riff about a single comic book
Yeah.
for the length of this show. Like we could. I mean, I still have thoughts about the DCU, but I think we should probably move on to the next thing we wanted to talk
So
about.
we wanted to cover. I guess we can sort of. I mean, the next 2 points. One of them is kind of. It will be a very. I feel like tangential little thing just to mention. But the next movie we wanted to talk about was Morbius, which is coming out April 1st. So unfortunately, it was supposed to come out last month, but it got pushed back. Which I mean, I have no issues with. I mean, I think it's better to
Mm-hmm.
release something later that's more quality than to rush something and deliver a half-baked
And
product.
I want to say, like, I don't know for sure, but I feel like the delay was due in part to the success of No Way Home.
I think so, yeah.
And, like,
And COVID.
well, yeah,
Like
that's
this, Omicron,
also true.
Omicron really spiked. You gotta love it.
Yeah, gotta hate it.
Yeah, true. But my biggest, I guess looking forward to. I don't even know what word to use there. But the thing I'm looking forward to the most, essentially, in this movie is Matt Smith.
Yes, sir.
The 11th Doctor.
Yes, sir.
Anyways, so yeah, that's my biggest the thing I'm the most excited for, to be honest. But yeah, I mean,
Do you know too much about like the plot or anything?
No.
Has that been leaked? I
have
don't think
no
so.
idea. It's
Yeah.
just this. I mean, I know of the character of Morbius.
Mm-hmm.
They're making him an anti-hero. It seems like they're taking the Venom route, which
Yeah,
I mean I
yeah.
get, because like Venom was successful for the most part. It's not the greatest comic book movie of all time, but like it's something that you can sit down and enjoy.
I mean, I enjoyed it more than Justice League, bro.
Yeah, like it's it's good. It's like what it's a feel good like it.
Yeah. And it's funny. Like
Yeah,
they took a funny route with Venom.
it's the best adaptation of Venom we've seen. Like
Yeah.
everything from the way he looks to his personality. Like they didn't just make him like
I think the only other time he was in like live action was Spider-Man 3, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And we all know how that one went.
yeah, and so and I feel like the Venom from Spider-Man 3 is such a like short snippet of like the character's existence in comic books.
Mm-hmm.
In comic books, like I guess he's kind of been the like whole we hate Spider-Man, like time to beat him up, right?
Mhm.
Like, but like in recent years, he's really
The Venom lore
developed as
has
a character.
expanded.
Yeah. Like Eddie Brock has been a father for now in the comics for a long time, and like part of his like whole shtick as a character now was like balancing being a lethal protector and also being a father, like, and it's like but so yeah, I guess I see why they're going this
Mhm.
route with the Morbius movie, because like it worked, and obviously if something works, you're gonna do it again.
Yep.
The only issue, I mean, I guess so, you know, I guess the biggest issue that, well, I don't know if you want to touch upon this, but the whole idea that they're basically just doing this because it's lucrative. So.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, it's hard to say because we've definitely reached a point culturally where the superhero movie market and like superhero content in the mainstream, um, it's been very saturated for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where studios are really starting to get forced essentially to go into their backlog of characters
Yeah.
and start pulling out like to be completely honest, I wasn't really familiar with Morbius as a character
Mm-hmm.
before this movie got
Yeah.
announced,
Yeah.
and
neither was
I mean, to be honest, I still am not like I don't care for Morbius as much as like Venom, or I guess one of like the more well-known people in sort of like Spidey's rogue gallery.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of those people have already been adapted to the big screen,
Mm-hmm.
so they're sort of going really like I would have zero complaints if the movie ends up being good, and
Yeah. No,
that's something I'm hoping for. Like I would never actively wish for a bad movie
Mm-hmm.
just so I can dunk on it and be like, haha, capitalism.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I'm hoping it will be an exciting
I feel like
story.
it has potential. I think in the first trailer, there was actually this makes a lot of sense now. There was this whole like a mural. It was like a
Yeah.
image of Spider-Man, which was Tobey Maguire's for some reason.
Mhm.
But then it said like murder on it.
Yep.
And I mean, to those of you listening, I don't know how far into like comic book theories or comic book movie theories you guys delve into, but like, as you were saying before, after No Way Home, like they talk about, well, I guess spoiler warning for No Way Home if you haven't seen it, even though it's been 2 months.
It's it's been a minute. We could drop it.
But yeah, they talk about how Andrew Garfield turned dark and how he stopped pulling his punches, and so now there's this whole theory that like he's the Spider-Man from that universe and he killed somebody out of rage after the death of Gwen Stacy.
Mhm.
And I feel like that has potential. It's a good universe building little thing to do, and like they can make it work.
I'm definitely not alone in saying this, but I think it would be really exciting to see a version of Spider-Man in this movie.
Yeah.
And because of like Sony, it's most likely going to be the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Like,
yeah, and what was I saying? It would make sense why they delayed it another 3 months.
yeah, like, yeah, this, especially with the whole like, as I said before, I think it got delayed because in large part due to the rampant success of No Way Home.
Yeah, you might want to throw a little something in there so that it's another Maybe not so rampant, but sort of, big hit.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, like Morbius, TLDR. Excited.
Yeah.
Not like as hyped as I was for No Way Home.
I
Like
mean,
I
yeah.
was itching to watch that
No,
movie. Like,
that's not another.
but if they include an adaptation of Garfield's Spider-Man, and they also sort of um they make it in line with what we saw in No Way Home, where because I thought that was a really really solid character move that they did with him.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
And I mean it's actually there's kind of a similar story in DC with like I think it's the Injustice plot
Yeah, I
line.
mean, yeah.
Where like the Joker kills Lois Lane and Superman just goes ham. Um, but like yeah, I mean that'd be cool to see. I don't know exactly too much about like the specifics of the plot, like Matt Smith, like
Yeah, they haven't really.
yeah,
they haven't really um fleshed it out. So we'll just have to wait and see.
we'll have to wait and see. And
Yeah.
but at least it'll be like sort of set in like that Sonyverse. And honestly, like I guess this touches on the Sonyverse as a whole, but like I was kind of a little bummed when I was a kid and like Spider-Man 2 kind of flopped so hard because I really enjoyed seeing
The
that.
Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay,
2.
I was about to
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire goated. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, my bad. That was a little mishap, but the Amazing Spider-Man 2 kind of flopped. Or maybe not flopped, but it definitely didn't do as well as Sony would have liked.
It had its. They did not flesh out villains. Like the villain.
Electro was mid.
Yeah, the villain character arcs were very like, very like sort of.
And I hated that adaptation of Harry, bro.
Yeah,
it was so bad.
It was all very like, half baked, not fleshed out. But I do like. I think Spider-Man in that movie was like, I like Andrew Garfield. I think was good in that movie. Spider-Man. He's personally my favorite Spider-Man. Like, and I say that as in like in the suit, like the way he acts, the way he like sort of quips with his villains. Like
it's very comic accurate.
It's very comic accurate. And I've always appreciated that about his character.
And his relationship with Gwen Stacy was always well done, especially since Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone had a lot of chemistry.
And I think as speaking on Gwen Stacy, I think she's, in my opinion, the best love interest we've seen for Spider-Man on screen so far.
Bro, Toby's MJ. She was a menace, bro.
She, I mean, yeah. So, just like, yeah, I don't think she was like, I don't think she was the best of love interest, and I think like the current MJ is very like, I think too. It's sort of like I feel like with like the romance between Peter and MJ and like the current MCU or like the newest iteration of the MCU is very like, I guess it's trying too hard to relate to like teens our age. Like it feels too like
pandery.
I guess like
I'd
nerdy
also
guy
say
and mysterious girl get together and like.
I'd also say she was pretty underwritten.
Yeah.
Until like No Way Home.
Exactly. Yeah, and so like it was kind of just like, I don't know. It was hard to sort of, I guess, feel invested in the relationship as opposed to like, I think, Peter 3 and Gwen Stacy, who like you have this whole sort of like a bunch of setup between the relationship and this idea like her dad's the police like captain.
Yeah,
and
when he had to gank the lizard and the way he had to deal with that guilt, I'd still say that.
And
was,
also just like like and like we're saying this idea that like Spider-Man struggles with like these sort of normal people issues, but at the same time issues as Spider-Man. I think they incorporated the two of those aspects really well. So like the idea that her dad like the girl Peter's dating, his dad is the like police captain who is opposed to the idea of vigilantism.
Yeah.
And
It's
the guy
similar,
who's
yeah.
dating his daughter is a vigilante. Like,
And it's similar to what we see in like Spider-Verse, where like Miles's dad
yeah,
is the police chief, and he's like, "Oh, this Spider-Man, this Spider-Man, that,"
yeah.
and Miles is like,
Bro.
it's like, "Thank you, officer," and then
Yeah.
he's like, "Man, I love that movie."
So like that's the thing. Like I think there was definitely potential, and they did some really good things in the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, but they also had some things flawed, mostly villains.
Mhm.
And
But yeah,
character motivations.
like going back to, the point of this tangent, like I'm excited that, these characters are, after the success of Venom, and especially after the success of Andrew Garfield being in No Way Home,
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited to see, maybe these characters get like the specific adaptation of the characters getting like a second chance.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I guess sort of transitioning into the next point of conversation, which is I feel like a very brief one. It's just a little something nice to add in there. I'm pretty sure Sony is either releasing, I think, with the Blu-ray version of No Way Home, or and they've already leaked parts of it. So
Oh, interesting.
but there's 80 additional minutes of No Way Home footage, and obviously it's what the people want to see. So
Yeah, for sure.
They actually did the pointing meme
Yeah.
in real life. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I
that,
saw it.
That photo's where that's from.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Or basically this additional footage is where that photo's from.
Is it like behind the scenes footage, or is it?
Yeah, I think most of it is behind the scenes footage. Like,
Okay.
just stuff they didn't throw in there. A lot of it is like literally just the three Spider-Men just joking around. I'm a little upset because like I feel like have seen more. I don't know. Might be a hot take. I wasn't a big fan of like Tobey Maguire in No Way Home. I think he felt very like, I don't know, kind of stagnant. Like I think for me, like obviously I wasn't expecting character growth from him. I think his character is fine where it is, and I like respect the decision to make. I actually enjoy like the fact that they didn't introduce these two Peters and then make No Way Home all about them and like where they've been. They sort of threw in a little here and there, right? Sort of to like feel
They threw in the right amount, because
Yeah.
if they just had them for cameos and then they're like, okay, bye, that would have been trash too.
Yeah, I think so. But just like I don't know, like for me personally, I feel like there was just something not working for me about Tobey Maguire's appearance in No Way Home. He felt very like sort of. I hate to say, but he felt like he was there for a bag, bro.
Paycheck.
For a bag, like, and I mean, I respect. I mean, like, I get it, bro. Cause like, No Way Home.
He's
is
an actor.
He like if your agent comes to you, and they're like, hey, you just got an offer to be in potentially one of the biggest movies in the history of mankind. I'm pretty sure there's like top 10 highest grossing movies of all time.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you
And
really?
all you have to do is suit up
Yeah.
for a character you played like 20 years ago.
Are you really gonna say no? I don't think so.
Nah,
So like, I mean, all I'm saying is like,
bro hit a lick.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't know, just like watching him, it was kind of like, it just like like I don't know, maybe it was just like, I don't know, just because like Andrew Garfield showed up and he put so much soul into the character this time, like I like it just felt very like
he was the weakest link in the three.
Yeah, and like I mean, obviously Tom's the focus of the movie, but Andrew like felt very like he was invested in the character. He put love and care into it. And he's a big Spider-Man fan. I think this is pretty common knowledge, but he's expressed that aside from the movies, he's a big fan, right? But anyways, point being that with this whole additional Way Home footage, I feel like I've seen more personality out of Tobey Maguire in this like behind the scenes footage, just from like the little short snippets I've seen.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Or he's like he's genuinely like laughing, like.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like just nice. As opposed to what we saw in the movie. So I mean, and also Daredevil additional footage in there too. I think, so.
Nice. He is a good lawyer, bro. He's a very good lawyer. I don't know. I feel like my take on Toby and No Way Home is like, I wasn't expecting too much, because like the dude is suiting up for the first time as Spider-Man after like 20 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe to me it almost kind of made sense that he was just more withdrawn and maybe a little more wooden, because like he's like the older, but he's not like the cynical older Spider-Man like we saw with Peter B. Parker in Spider-Verse. He's more just like, his relationship with MJ worked out. He's kind of just chilling,
He's
doing
coasting.
he's coasting, doing his Spider-Man thing, and he has like a moment of like mentorship in No Way Home when, he stops, Tom Holland's Peter from murking the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I don't know, like, would I have liked to see him, act as Spider-Man more, see like a little more of that magic that we saw in the Raimi movies for sure.
Yeah.
But like, does it make sense that he was kind of a little older and more checked out? Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely. So yeah, just that's a little cool thing that's out there that's coming out soon. So, but kind of transitioning off that point. Maybe a bit of a sharp transition, but Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
While we're on the subject of the MCU,
I just bring that up because rumors of Tobey Maguire? Question mark.
Actually,
I mean, because I think it's you can't be surprised because one,
it's a multiverse movie.
It's a multiverse movie, and two, who's directing it?
Oh, so true.
Sam Raimi, the guy who shot the first three
OG Spider-Man movies. Yeah.
And so like obviously people are talking about the idea that Tobey Maguire could potentially be in Multiverse of Madness, and I would really appreciate that. I mean, it would give us more on-screen footage of him as Spider-Man, which would be really cool. So, I guess now Multiverse of Madness. Basically, I think the most hype-inducing movie after No Way Home currently in the MCU. Out of like all the upcoming projects that the MCU has going for them.
And when's it coming out? Like May-ish?
May 6th.
Yep.
During our reading period. So.
Hey bro. Hey bro.
Final season. Anyways.
We're already in midterm season, bro. But I don't know.
Midterm season started. I had a midterm the third week of class. You want to explain that to me?
Right.
Or like third or maybe fourth. I think it was fourth.
That's not a midterm, bro. That's like
straight up
a mid-midterm.
I know. Quarter term.
Shit.
But anyways, tangential. Yeah, I think so many people are excited for this movie. I am too. I am really excited for this movie. I personally really like Doctor Strange in the MCU.
For sure. Benedict Cumberbatch is, I don't know. He's very charismatic.
Yeah. And
bro, he's a surgeon. He's out here.
Not
he's
anymore.
making. Okay, fair. But he was making bank.
Yeah. So, I think they have his character down really well. I think I'm excited. I genuinely look forward to seeing him on screen every time. He's funny, I think. But yeah, so I think something you and I both talked about is like how ambitious is this movie aiming to be?
For sure.
So in the trailer, we have, even though he's denying it, Patrick Stewart, Professor X from the old X-Men movies from the early 2000s. He says he's not in it, and he says that people have been, and I quote, mimicking his voice for years. But like, hey, yo, come on, man. Like,
bro's a capper and
I know. Like, at least with Andrew Garfield, like, he was like, yeah, I'm not in the movie, and the only like potential like confirmation we or like sort of counter evidence to that is like
Photoshop.
Yeah, like is like a behind the scenes photo that was released, which did actually turn out to be in the movie. But obviously, when these things come out, you don't really know for sure. Like obviously, Marvel released an official trailer and they show the corner of some bald head and like it has your voice behind it. You gonna tell me that's somebody else? But I mean, hey,
he's a capper, bro. He's a capper.
I mean, hey, so but I love Patrick Stewart, so
yeah,
he's yeah.
I mean, this is Jean-Luc Picard we're talking about, bro.
Yeah, and just he's a funny guy. Super charismatic, super good actor. So I look forward to seeing him in the movie. And expanding the multiverse into sort of. I mean, I'm not the biggest X-Men fan. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, okay, the animated series was fire. I used to watch that as a kid. That was good. The theme music to that. Yeah. super good. But yeah, so yeah, just I don't know, kind of going forward with this. It kind of like as we were saying, if they bring Tobey Maguire and Patrick Stewart and whoever else, XYZ ABC, because it's a multiverse, so they can kind of bring in whoever they want. You know, Defender Strange, Evil Doctor Strange, Zombie Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like all those characters came from What If.
Yeah,
and that's kind of like another thing I think is gonna be cool about this movie, because What If delved a lot into the multiverse. It's like outside of Loki, it's the first look into the multiverse that we've had in the MCU.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's kind of what we were theorizing before. Like, after where do you go after Endgame? It looks like a lot of Marvel is taking big strides towards like the multiverse aspect of it, and like the content we've gotten for that so far, like Loki, it touched upon the multiverse. I guess sort of like the origin. I guess once they broke out of that, like, once all the different branch points existed, which, like, I mean, in my mind, that raises a question, like, wait, so did the multiverse exist before the event of Loki? But, like, if timelines are just, like, permanent once, like, I don't know, confusing stuff, but, like, whatever. But what if I don't know, like, I haven't heard a lot of opinions against What If, but, like,
I feel like I've actually heard that it wasn't really as well. You and I both really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I
for
really
sure.
enjoyed it.
I loved it.
But yeah, apparently not everybody was the biggest fan. So
Really?
For the moment, yeah.
Yeah, like I've
mixed
heard
reviews.
like some criticisms and some ill reception, which I was like completely taken aback by, because I thought it was super cool. But yeah, that's besides the point. Like, What If definitely did a really fun job, in our opinion, of like showing us the multiverse. Like, not, it's show don't tell. And they showed us all these stories and these fun like little outcomes. But then they had like a big overarching season plot, which I kind of got. Like, that kind of took me by surprise, because, like, I thought it was just going to be an anthology, and I was very pleasantly surprised when they tied it all together at the end. But, like, yeah, in the Doctor Strange trailer, we see, like, evil Doctor Strange, and that's a character we saw up till this point in the MCU only in an animated context.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, there's no confirmation it's the same one.
That's true. That is also true.
So yeah, and then I guess the thing is, like, so yeah, you were saying, I guess, where is this kind of gonna go?
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, it's kind of unclear, because I feel like my biggest concern for the direction Marvel's going with the MCU, and the multiverse, is that, like, I like love this stuff. I've loved this stuff since I was a kid. So yeah, I've been putting in the effort to keep up with it for a very long time. But especially now, like, now in college, like, I have a little less time to keep up with it, and for sure, as the years go on, like, we're gonna get busier and busier and have even less time. But it seems like the MCU is, like, very much like, if you want to have the slightest clue what is going on, watch all these TV shows, watch all these movies. And now that the multiverse is introduced, it's gonna get really convoluted and confusing. Like, yes, if you keep up with this stuff, it'll start to make sense. But I feel like my personal fear is, once I start, like, running out of time, like, I'm not going to be able to engage with the content anymore, because it's just going to be, like, so, like, out there.
Well, so yeah, I feel like they are doing a lot currently, because, like, I feel like the whole multiverse aspect is one side of things, but then I feel like Marvel's always had this sort of, like, cosmic side of things, and then like the on Earth side of things, and like with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like it set up a lot of the sort of that typical Captain America and the Winter Soldier, like super secret agent type.
Yeah, globe-trotting adventures and stuff.
Yeah, so and Secret Invasion, I feel like can be a mix of
mix of the two.
A mix of the two.
And Guardians 3 is gonna be.
Yeah, so that's where I was going with that. Like, I feel like Guardians. So they're kind of going like multiverse with like Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch and whatnot, and Spider-Man now. And then we have like just like the sort of cosmic but not multiversal Thor: Love and Thunder, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and then we have like the on Earth stuff with Captain America 4 when that comes out.
Is that coming out?
Yeah, with Sam Wilson.
Okay.
And I guess the Secret Invasion show and whatever. So they are doing a lot.
I think, didn't they just cancel the Secret Invasion show?
I'm not sure. They might have.
I don't know. I feel like I remember reading that, like, I don't know, like on like the Japanese site, it wasn't like there in like the list of releases over the next couple of years. So like there's speculation onto whether or not it had been like canceled or something. I don't know for sure. Maybe that's just speculation.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah. Anyways, I guess essentially, yeah, like basically, I think it just comes with the idea of introducing a multiverse. There's just so much that you can introduce, so much that the fans kind of want to see, and then like only so much you can throw in there before you make it a very like oversaturated movie. And
Doctor Strange is walking that line.
Yeah, and we still don't really know who the villain is. Like the trailer's kind of suspected to be Wanda, but also like one of the many angled. Is it a many angled one? Shumagorath. Yeah, I mean, well, we don't know for sure with Shumagorath because he's part of a species, and it could be any one of the, I guess, larger villains from the species he comes from. But also, like, rumors that it's Chthon, who's an elder god who wrote a book called The Darkholds, which Wanda was reading in the end of her solo series. So, like, it could be that Wanda's being controlled by this, by this demon entity from beyond the screen. And so, like, we kind of just don't know. We kind of don't know, like, who the villain is. So, like, we run into the issue with Morbius, where, like, we don't really know where the movie's going. Like, it's kind of like general plot, like multiverse, Illuminati, Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, and some girl named America Chavez who has the power to jump between universes in the multiverse.
Right. But the hope is, they do it well, and it'll be an enjoyable movie that, sets a clear direction. Because, I think that's sort of an overarching thing with our concerns for the MCU right now. It's like, there's a lot happening, a lot of balls flying in the air, and it's kind of hard to see where this is going. Because back in the early days of the MCU, like, all your stuff on Earth is like Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, like kind of cosmic but still mostly grounded on Earth. And then you had Avengers, like, that big like first moment that really got everyone like, okay, like the MCU is like something where like I want to say Avengers really propelled it
for sure
into the spotlight. And from there, like, over the next, like 7 years, 8 years, Marvel expanded. So there was a lot of stuff on Earth, but, the Guardians introduced the cosmic aspect. But there was still, like, that was the extent of the growth. Like, outer space and Earth. And when Infinity War tied them together, it was, like, super well done, like, super concise. Like, the pacing was right, the character work was right. Like, Infinity War, S tier Marvel movie. Endgame,
Well,
but
yeah, I have my qualms with Endgame. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think it was a lot of fan service and um, kind of threw away a lot of character development out the window. I think Thanos was worse in Endgame than it was in Infinity War by far. Um,
and also like Black Widow, hate to say it, had like zero real character development before
Yeah.
Endgame. And then all of a sudden they're like, let's throw in like a bunch of like quirky one-liners and like endearing qualities for Black Widow that we have just never seen before, and then kill her so that her character death like hits a little harder. Like if the Black Widow movie came out before Endgame, it would have done so much better.
yeah.
But since it came out after, I feel like no one really cared. Like the only outcome of that movie is that it set up Yelena.
And I think that comes with, when you're building a Marvel Cinematic Universe where every movie ties into the next, and it all like builds up to something to release, sort of like a it's kind of like a prequel. That doesn't. I mean, it set up something in what you're saying with Yelena, but like beyond that, it's kind of like
But yeah, going back to the early days of the MCU, Thanos was teased in Avengers.
yeah.
And it was very clear to see that they had a direction with that. For all the stuff that's come out and past Endgame, I don't know if you felt like this, but I've just been like, okay, but where is this going?
Yeah. So I guess the biggest suspects are, one, introduction of mutants into the MCU. I mean, that's a whole side of Marvel that they haven't introduced yet, and I know a lot of stories with the X-Men have a lot to do with the idea of like prejudice against the people. The X-Men are a group of mutants who are humans with mutations in their genes, and they have superpowers because of it. And like a lot of Marvel stories touch upon this idea that because of these mutations and the fact that they're different, they get discriminated against. They experience violence on like a daily basis from like basically regular humans, and like to the point where like they've had to go flee to their own refuges.
And yeah, and that's like a core part of X-Men stories.
Yeah, and I think
Professor X is like, we should live in harmony, and Magneto's like, nah, we're better.
Yeah.
Like we deserve the world more than the humans.
Yeah, and I think the introduction of the X-Men into the MCU, if done properly, can be a very good very good. It can shine a good light on the issues the X-Men face, which I think undoubtedly speaks to issues in like our worlds and our worlds beyond the screen. Like it, like I was saying, like we've talked about, the MCU, or not the MCU, but Marvel Comics tends to go for like these. So it tends to interweave these relatable like character aspect, or like these relatable things that people face every day into their stories, and I think that's one of them that it'll sort of address, like I was saying, one of the issues that we face in our society. So I think that's the most, I guess, obvious takeaway from what this movie's trying to do, especially with the introduction of Patrick Stewart, the leader of the X-Men, into it. Beyond that, I don't really know. Yeah, to be beyond that, I don't really know. It doesn't feel like a very like Avengers centric movie. It doesn't feel like Fantastic Four, I guess.
Ooh, yeah.
Potentially.
But that's the thing. There's so many like potentialities, maybes, what if, and if Marvel has set a precedent so far, is that they are taking extreme lengths to keep leaks under wraps.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
TLDR, kind of uncertain to where it goes. As usual, we're hoping for the best. But we won't really know until we watch the dang thing in May. So yeah, I think that's about our time, man.
Yeah, I know. Welcome to the comic book catch up. Maybe we'll do this again. I mean, it's sort of easier for you and me to just riff on, but
yeah, for sure. But yeah, hopefully when more comic book stuff comes out, we'll cover it on the show again.
Yeah.
But as always, it's been a pleasure talking to you, bro.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you too.
And yeah, let's take her out. You've been listening to 101.1 FM, WBRULP, WFOOLP, WVVXLP Providence.
Just so you guys know, you can find us on the OuttaPocketPodcast.com. That is www.theoutapocketpodcast.com. It's OUTTA. And we have links to our Spotify there and Apple Podcasts, so you can catch us, on your commute or while you're studying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're on a bunch of different platforms now, and of course, as always, we have a contact page on the website. So if there's anything you want to tell us about the show, things you like, things you want to see,
Just shoot us an email.
Yeah, for sure, shoot us an email. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Outta Pocket Podcast. We'll see you next week, and my people in Providence, stay moisturized, stay hydrated, and bundle up. This winter weather is no joke, but we're hoping for spring.
Real. That's true. That groundhog did us dirty.
Yeah, that's
whatever. Hey, catch you guys later and take care.
Drop kick Puxkatani Phil, bro.
Hey, yo, not the mayor of New York, de Blasio type beat.
Oh no. See you guys.